It's a human vanity that we believe we have free will, that we are masters of our own destiny, that we are free to choose whether we eat a small amount of food today or a large amount of food today, whether we smoke today, whether we don't smoke, whether we lose our temper or become angry with our partner. All of these things we believe are within our control. Now, just a small observation. Do you know what you will be thinking in 2 minutes from now? No, you don't. If you're honest, you will know that you do not. You might make some extraordinarily intense effort to keep your mind focused on something, maybe focused on what, I don't know, something you can see in front of you, so that you know in 2 minutes you will be thinking about that. But actually, between now and 2 minutes away, something may happen. For the sake of argument, your partner may rush into the room and say that she needs you to help, or he needs you to help with something, or whatever. It could be anything. So no, you don't know what you'll be thinking in 2 minutes from now. Do you know how you'll be feeling in 2 minutes from now? No, you don't. You can work hard right now to say, I am going to feel happy. But actually, you might get an email saying your bank account has been hacked and you've lost half the money in there. It's not going to help you feel happy, is it? And I guarantee that you probably wouldn't feel happy at that point in time. Can you determine what you'll be doing physically in 2 minutes from now? Well, possibly a little bit more than the others. But even there, again, you do not know what circumstances might arise between now and that 2 minutes away that you believe you have some control over. So if you're really honest, you actually don't know what you'll be doing in 2 minutes from now. It's a sobering thought that we are actually, well, sort of automatons. Now, there are two ways you can view that. One is you can get depressed about it. And actually, it wouldn't be you that would be depressed, it would be your ego. Because your ego believes it has control over everything. And you could become despondent about it and say, what's the point of anything if really I'm just this bag of responses that I have no control over? Well, why would you want control over it? What little bit of your ego has told you that you are the master of your own universe? So you don't have any control over what you're going to be doing in 2 minutes, in any kind of way. Control is a total illusion. What you can do, when you remember to do it, is you can observe what's happening. Now, observation is something that you can, with a little bit of practice, maintain for a few minutes. A few minutes doesn't sound very long, does it? But actually, it's very hard for us to maintain an awareness, an observation of what's going on within us for more than a few seconds initially. And I have it on good authority that human beings cannot be aware or observe themselves or be in the present, or whatever term you want to use, for more than a few minutes every day. At least while we're in life. If you sit down and meditate, then yes, you can probably do it a little bit longer. So here we are. We have the situation where actually we have no real control over what's going on either in our environment or within us. And the one thing we can do is we can observe it for short periods of time. So to go back to the fundamental notion of free will, let's say I walk into a shop and I see some chocolate, my favourite piece of chocolate. Will I buy the chocolate or not? Well, if I've just been reading a book about how bad sugar is for my body, then I might not buy the chocolate, even though I'd probably like it. But if I've just found out that my partner is having an affair and I'm emotionally disturbed, then yeah, I'll probably end up buying the chocolate. And it was Spinoza who said that we have the illusion of free will because we see the effects taking place within us. So me buying the chocolate, but have very poor awareness of the causes whereby those effects come about. So if I learn something that is emotionally disturbing, that is a cause that would then mean that when I was in the shop, I'd probably buy the chocolate. And then you could go back behind, well, why was I disturbed by this? And then, there's this infinite regress of cause and effect. And in fact, this notion that we have free will is challenged by modern neuroscience. It's interesting that a 17th century philosopher, Spinoza particularly, totally dismissed the idea of free will. And that modern neuroscience is showing the same thing. There's a very good video by Sam Harris, I think that's his name. I'm going to put the link below this particular video. He goes into some depths as to how we don't have free will. I think he gives the example of ask someone to raise one of their hands, either hand. If you put electrodes on their brain and all the rest of it, you can actually see that the decision is made in the brain before the person becomes aware of which hand to move. It's scary, isn't it? The subconscious process goes on prior to the person saying, yes, I'm going to lift my right hand, that's what I decide. No, mate. It was already decided before you did that by your body, by your own neurological mechanisms. Now, this idea of free will and not having free will, on the surface of it, it just sounds like okay. I'm influenced by things, cause and effect, and so on and so forth. But actually, it has a much deeper impact on the way we live our lives if we really, really understand it. And of course, this is a difference between just taking in information and actually having understanding. Or, as Gurdjieff would say, the difference between knowledge and being. Anybody can load their heads full of all kinds of knowledge. Doesn't mean it will make any difference in your life. But this thing of there being no free will is truly profound. So, when that person that you meet walking down the street doesn't acknowledge you, and they normally do, and you feel a bit aggrieved by that, if you understand that that person has no free will, and in actual fact may have had an argument with his or her partner just before they left their house, and that they're not taking notice of what's around them, and they're in a pretty crappy mood anyway, and they're not going to say hi, good morning, because they're just not in the mood to do that. If you understand that people have no free will, then you very quickly lead to the Buddhist notion of no blame. Can you do that? Well, most of us can't. Not all the time anyway. But there is no blame. Now that's very hard to admit when you consider characters such as Hitler or Stalin or Pol Pot, people who massacred millions of people. But there is no blame because they were just acting like automatons, doing the only thing they knew how to do. And this leads back even further, because then you say to yourself, well, if we are all effectively automatons, reacting in the only way that we can, by this infinite chain of cause and effect, then the universe is to blame for our suffering. Or God, if you want to use the word God. There's another well, I've already done some videos on the nature of God. Watch those if you want more of an insight into that. But the universe or nature or God is then the cause of our suffering, because the universe has created this monster called Hitler. And we have some monsters in the making today, but I'm not going to name names. And this is true. Nature, the universe, God, whichever word you want to use, has indeed created these people who then generate suffering for potentially millions of other people. But there's a strange thing takes place, and it requires quite a high degree of inner development. But when you understand the mechanisms that are in operation, and that the way the world is the only way it could be, then you gain some kind of inner peace. And it requires sacrificing a lot of your most dearly held notions about what is just, unjust, ugly, beautiful, kind, unkind, all these notions that we have that can be easily offended. Once you have gone beyond those, then you might experience some peace of mind. So, to summarize, because we've gone a long way in just under 15 minutes. Free will is a fantasy, it's a fiction. It does not exist. Human beings exist as much a part of nature as anything else. So the way the planets all revolve around each other, it's driven by laws. We are driven by laws. We are not a kingdom within a kingdom. We are a part of nature. And so if we feel threatened, for example, we're probably going to strike back. It's just a law of our existence. And so we have no free will. We are driven by cause and effect, and those causes may go back a long way into the past. Once we understand that we have no free will, then actually there's no blame anywhere. This does not mean that a mass murderer, because there is no blame, goes free. A mass murderer is a danger to society, and so such a person would go to jail, regardless of whether it was an act of free will or not. It wasn't an act of free will. When somebody commits a crime like that, they're doing the only thing they can do in that circumstance. But they still go to jail. Or as Spinoza says, such a person still goes to the gallows. Or I think he used the word is drowned or something. Some kind of punishment they had in those days. So once you accept that, then there is no blame. But to get to that position of no blame requires that you go into yourself to see why you are creating blame. What is it within you that is being offended when someone does something? And that is a whole other story, and no doubt I'll talk about it in another